Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Kamanika Mohottige and I'm an artist. This week's Sketchbook Sunday is a little bit different. The video is a bit different. Last summer, I went on a solo road trip. You can follow all the videos and vlogs of this road trip in my channel. One of the locations I visited was Haworth in Yorkshire. That's the home of the Bronte sisters. So in the next part of this video is my vlog on visiting the Bronte Parsonage. And for this week's Sketchbook Sunday, I'm creating a portrait inspired by this visit. So let's go to Haworth first. Now I remembered that the real world was wide, and that a varied field of hopes and fears, of sensations and excitement, awaited for those who had the courage to go forth into its expanse, to seek real knowledge of life midst of its perils. That's a quote from Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre. Dear listener, welcome to my YouTube channel. Last summer I went on a road trip from Kent to Keswick, and this episode is about when I left Wales to visit Yorkshire. The first place I went when I came to Yorkshire was the Bronte Parsonage in Haworth. The previous quote I read to you was from Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. The Bronte Parsonage in Haworth was where she lived with her incredibly creative siblings. The story of Jane Eyre took me on a personal journey too. This copy was gifted to my mom by my father because she loved to read. And from Amma's book collection, I kind of kidnapped it to read. It's such a powerful book about a girl, and my childhood imagination was so inspired. It's more than 20 years ago that I first read it, but the story still fills me with so much emotion even today. Jane Eyre is a story about an independent woman with a lot of self-respect and determination. She knows what she wants and she's determined to achieve it. She does not let other people decide or define her personal limits. Jane Eyre is incredible. She was written well ahead of its time, which gives an insight into thinking of the writer Charlotte Bronte. Charlotte Bronte wrote Jane Eyre and her other novels in this house in Haworth, Yorkshire. She was born in Thornton and was the third child in a family of 6. Maria, Elizabeth, Charlotte, Emily and Anne were the girls in the order, and the youngest of the family was their brother Bronwell. Patrick Bronte, their father, was an Irish Anglican minister. In 1820, Patrick Bronte was appointed to the church in Haworth, and the family moved into this house. 1 year after the move, her mother passed away from cancer when Charlotte was only 11 years old. They were raised by their father and a maternal aunt, and also in boarding schools. Maria and Elizabeth, the oldest girls in the family, died around the age of 10 from TB and typhoid fever, 2 conditions very common at the time. They both contracted it in their schools. In Jane Eyre, Charlotte Bronte writes about the Lowood School based on her own school experience in the Clergy Daughter School in Lancashire, which was also affected by TB due to poor conditions. All 3 remaining girls in the family, Charlotte, Anne and Emily, were keen writers. After much failed attempts to be published, in 1846, the sisters Charlotte, Anne and Emily self-financed and published a collection of poems under the pseudonyms Currer, Acton and Ellis Bell. They did not use their real names. Instead, they used pseudonyms with the same initials. Charlotte explained the reason for this in a letter to a friend. We had a vague impression that authoresses are liable to be looked on with prejudice. we had noticed how critics sometimes use for their chastisement the weapon of personality, and for their reward of flattery, which is not true praise. Only 2 copies of this book were sold. Looking back, it seems impossible and strange to think that at one point only 2 copies of their book were sold. Charlotte, Emily and Anne are well-loved international names today. I guess that's the humble beginnings of many artists. So much hurt, disappointment and heartbreaks, yet they never give up on that passion for their craft. Publishers were not interested in Charlotte Bronte's first manuscript either. Therefore, The Professor was not published. Then she tried again to send a second manuscript, Jane Eyre, which was published. Jane Eyre was an immediate success. It made me think, you know how sometimes we see artists, sports people, become an overnight success? But actually, it may have taken them decades of practice at their craft to become an overnight success. In Charlotte Bronte's case, almost 30 years of writing. The same year, Emily published Wuthering Heights and Anne published Agnes Grey. These 2 were also international successes overnight. After that huge success, tragedy hit the family in the following year. Bronwell, Charlotte's brother, who was an artist, died of chronic bronchitis and addiction. He was addicted to alcohol and opium. Shortly after his death, Emily became seriously ill with TB. Only a year after her first novel, Wuthering Heights, Emily died of tuberculosis. And the following year, Anne died of the same disease. Within 8 months, there were 3 deaths in the family, and Charlotte lost all her siblings. Charlotte continued to write as a way of dealing with her grief. After the success of Jane Eyre, the writer was invited to the literary circles in London, and Charlotte's identity was eventually revealed. She also met fellow writer and lifelong friend Elizabeth Gaskell in one of these visits. About 5 years after Jane Eyre, Charlotte Bronte married her father's curate Arthur Bell Nichols. She fell pregnant soon after the wedding and her health deteriorated. 3 weeks before her 39th birthday, Charlotte Bronte died with her unborn child. Her death certificate states that the cause of death was tuberculosis. But historians suggest that it could also be from dehydration from severe hyperemesis gravidarum, which she suffered from throughout the pregnancy. Being here today, walking through the same streets as one of my favorite writers walked through about 200 years ago, adds a lot of depth and understanding. The countryside is protected and preserved to be the same from her time. These are the places where Jane Eyre walked to and grew up and was created. Jane Eyre has the perfect blend of romance, naturalism and Gothic melodrama. Charlotte Bronte wrote Jane Eyre at the age of about 31. Her insight into understanding about human inner conflict, deep thoughts and feelings is so fascinating. She puts them on paper very skillfully. I spent the rest of the evening walking through the streets of Haworth, this small village that's still well preserved. The day was beautiful and so peaceful, just reflecting through the life of Charlotte Bronte and how she created Jane Eyre. It's very inspiring.